speaker here today, CSK, as he is popularly known, is a Bangalorean by birth, but a total Hyderabadi by heart. He believes in a line that made him move out of his hometown and explore new avenues in the education sector since the last 12 years. And that line is, an individual can achieve much, much, much more than what you can think of. And it is that push that made him come out and take up a lot of initiatives. He is going to talk about psychology. But what that psychology is all about, I would wait for the speaker to come and unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the first speaker of PKN Volume 14, Chandra Shekar, DP.
Okay, so good evening to all of you present here. The picture what you saw before gives us memories from our childhood. But let me tell you a little bit of science there. That's a picture which is called as a Chinese bird or Chinese pigeon, which is 500 million into service. I'm talking about cycling, and the history is as old as 224 years. The first cycle was invented in 1790. But the first motorized cycle, which you see here, was implemented in 1794. But you know what? Forget about the history of cycling. For the last 224 years, I was not aware of cycling as a passion. My discovery with cycling began in 2014. And when I talk about 2014, this is the history where you have 224 years, and I was oblivious to the fact that cycling can actually create you, discover yourself, or create that feeling of discovery in yourself that you can go find your calling in that way. It all began when this man, Dinanath, many of you know him, or at least a few of you have heard of this foundation called the Atlanta Foundation. He met me, and over a cup of coffee we were discussing, and he said he is going for a trip. I thought maybe he's flying out of Hyderabad for some place, and he actually said he's going to Ahmedabad. And Ahmedabad, not by flight or by whatever, he started driving the cycle from Hyderabad to Ahmedabad for Gandhi Jayanti. That kind of triggered a thought, and I ended up on a cycle like this for a small CEO ride, which is a 5-kilometer ride around Raheja Mindspace. And it all began there, and for me, I was waiting when it will end. But this picture, the picture which you will see here, I don't know for what reason you're not seeing, but then that is a picture which they gave me at the end, which said, I completed the CEO ride. It's a nice framed picture where I am seated on the cycle, and that is a frame which was presented to me. I bought it, I kept it on my table, and then every time I saw that, there was one kind of a thought which triggered in my mind. It's like, I can't believe you just cycled. You cycled around the city and you actually did that 10-kilometer ride, because I thought it was 5 kilometers. Eventually they told me that it's 10 kilometers. Like 10 kilometers on cycle, and you kept yourself on that. And that sort of created a kind of a question that can I do something more? And when I was looking for that is when this came up, which came up on the 26th of January, where you have to cover 100 kilometers on a cycle. I thought, Chandra, this is not something where you go graduate from 10 kilometers to 100 kilometers just like that. I did my type of practice, took out the cycle every Wednesday and kept it back on Thursday morning, and then waited for the next Wednesday to start doing. But then when I actually got onto the track on 26th January morning, I had this thought that I can't. But then eventually over that 100 kilometers, it expanded into I can't do this anymore. But then I came out as an evolved person, and that is what I want to share with you. The psychology here is how cycling has affected my mind and my behavior. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. The day morning, when we were all gathered to start, I was still counting, will I do 100 kilometers? And somebody from behind said, boss, start to karo. You start. And that is the beauty of it. You get started and you start doing it. The next is the moment where you feel like giving up is when it does not seem its worth. I mean, remember those hills across the Microsoft road? That's the time you say it's not worth it. But then soon after you cross Microsoft and Infosys, you get a slope. And you said, yes, change happens. In life also change happens when you say it's not worth it, but you hold on, then change happens. Sore, tired, out of breath, sweat, good, it's working. Same is the case in your life. When you feel you are tired, when you feel you are dead, just tell yourself something is working and you just hold on, you will continue to come out victorious. The reason most people give up is because they tend to look at how far they still have to go instead of looking at how far they have already come. I got this feeling when I finished 62 kilometers and I came to Osman Sagar. I am like, I still have to do another 38 kilometers. But then I also got the thought at the same time, thanks to my friend who was cycling with me, that we have already covered 68 kilometers. So friends, that's what I want to tell. And at the first level, you feel like dying. But then, that is when you are reborn. I completed the 100 kilometer. As I climbed and came back into the Gachibowli stadium, that's when I rediscovered myself. And since then, till now, cycling has become an integral part. I do cycle quite often, and I try to take up this particular bike with me as much as I can and as many places as I can. And that's the reason you see me in the same attire. But then you may ask me, whom are you doing this for? I don't have anybody for whom I am doing. I am doing this for myself. This is where I want to ask you, what is that one thing which you are doing it for yourself? Are you having anything like that which you are doing it for yourself? Then great. Kudos to you that you have something which you want to do and you want to do it for your own sake and nobody else. Now the point here is cycling and me have three connections. One, cycling is for me, as told by my good friend, it's liberation. When you are on the cycle, when you are trying to pedal, when you are trying to go around, you feel that you are not answerable to anyone. You feel that you are liberated, and believe me when I say this, because the joy what you get when you are actually pedaling and trying to go as if there is no tomorrow is something which I cannot express in the word. Second, cycling is something which brought in inside me a feeling of empathy. I mean, all of us drive our bikes, cars, but we forget to share the road. Do you remember how you react when a cyclist is in front of you and he is stopping your speed? He is stopping you from putting that top gear in your car. You feel as if this guy has come from nowhere and is spoiling the entire fun. Just shift your place and go on to that seat. You will realize how different the thought is. And once you are on that seat and come back to your cycle or your bike or your car, you get that feeling of empathizing with people. Not just that, when you drive on the roads of Hyderabad, you may not understand how beautiful the roads are divided and tracked because your shock absorbers will take care of it. But when you ride a cycle, you will know micro level as to what are the kinds of levels which are there on the road, and you will know how to empathize with your own self. The third thing, which is the last thing, I think cycling is 100% pure joy. I have no justification to tell you that it is joy because of this reason. It is joy and it is just joy. Now you may ask me, where all will you go with your cycle? And I say, where all you want to go with your cycle, you will go there because it's psychology. Psychology is the way the cycle affects your behavior, and that's my talk to all of you, and that's my piece of life to all of you in these 400 seconds. To end, I want to tell you this, that you may have anything in your life, but then have that one thing which you just do only for yourself. You don't need to answer anyone, you don't need to tell anyone, you don't need to question anyone, you don't need to wait for anyone. If you have that in your life, I'm sure each one of you will have a long way to go because you will keep going for your own sake. Thank you very much.